because there's nobody sensible in that office. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Stephanie, and every month, once a month, we discuss how much progress I'm making towards my six-figure student loan payoff and what the heck this administration is doing to continue to torture people who dare to get an education. I feel like the entirety of the month of January, you can say Happy New Year until you proverbially see the other person. So Happy New Year to y'all. 2026 is off to a start. One thing at a time. Today is January 26th, and this will come out literally at the last minute, but I kept my promise, and we are finally on track. Slowly but surely. As long as you do those goals, eventually it still counts. So our agenda is going to be what I paid in December. Then we're going to talk about that wage garnishment that apparently the wrestling lady, I wrote it so that way it could be a tongue twister. Apparently the wrestling woman paused the wage garnishment. This whole administration is temperamental, so who knows how long that's lasting. And then, last but not least, I refinanced my last student loan. So let's get into that. And we'll talk about a little bit more about refinancing, which we did all of the math last video. So if you would like to know the math behind how much the interest is actually costing you, go watch the last video, which technically I think is titled July through December, because it had been a hot minute, but we are back to, every month. All right, so what I paid in December. I paid $3,500 in December, and my starting student loan balance in February 14th of 2020, when I started this trifling, very long, arduous journey, was $304,680 and 17 trifling cents, which is inclusive of about $90,000-ish of predatory interest, aka money I did not borrow. When I get to the final payoff, we're going to know how much money I did not borrow, I have paid. Whew, I'm looking forward to the payoff. I'm not looking forward to that realization, because that number has grown throughout this series as I've updated the math and updated the math and updated the math and realized that I have been bamboozled, led astray, and robbed. All right, so that leaves my remainder at the beginning of 2026 in January to $75,076 and 90 trifling cents, which leaves my estimated total paid to $240,469.63 hard-earned mother effing pennies that I, Stephanie, have paid. Next on our agenda, the tongue twister. Apparently, the wrestling woman paused the wage garnishment. There is really no rhyme or reason to what Linda McMahon is doing. She's our Secretary of Education. She has no qualifications. Yeah.
A lot worse than it hurts you.
Get her!
Anyways, they decided last year that they were going to come for everyone who is in forbearance and has unfortunately not been able to pay their student loans for the past year. They decided and announced that they were going to garnish people's wages. They have decided that they're putting a pause on that. There is no current date as to whether or not they are going to actually start wage garnishment. If you take one thing from this series, from this specific video, please log into your student loan service provider. If you don't know who your student loan service provider is, log into your Department of Education account, see how much you owe, write down what your minimum payment is, try to write it into your budget, and if you look at it and because in this economy, this high inflation, that you cannot afford it, go and apply for forbearance. If you have a legally stated forbearance, you may not have to pay, or you'll have to pay less, and if you have forbearance, they will not garnish your wages. If you take anything from this video, please. If you take a lot of things from this video, please pay off your student loans. The only way out of this is through, unfortunately. Deep sigh. All right, that's all I have to say about the WWE villain, because they haven't put out any recommendations. The Department of Education hasn't updated anything. I'm sure next month I'll come on here and the news will be very different. Because there's nobody sensible in that office. Moving along to things that we can control. I told y'all that I was going to refinance my last student loans. I have 2 remaining loans. I buried the lead a little bit. I had from law school what I called my big 6, my 6 large student loans. Currently, the loan I am paying down will be paid off this month in January. That means next month when I pop up on here on time in the beginning of the month. It's Black History Month, so I'm going to try to do our collective ancestors proud and be on time. Try is the operative word, but I will be back. And with that, I will only have 1 remaining loan. I have decided to refinance that 1 remaining loan. A few caveats and reminders. Do not, capital NOT, refinance your student loans if you are on PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness. For public service loan forgiveness, for you to qualify, they have to stay federal loans. So you have to keep them with the Department of Education. They require you to consolidate them. And then after 10 years, allegedly, they are going to forgive your loan. I say allegedly because cruelty is the point of this current administration. And I'm really rooting for y'all. I have my fingers crossed. 10 prayers, because they have put out new information that they are all of a sudden being very slow in the past year to actually honor people's hard-earned PSLF. So I am hoping that all of you get your student loans forgiveness, and public service loan forgiveness is for federal employees, government workers, people of nonprofits. They have unfortunately encroached. It used to be all nonprofits. They've encroached on certain nonprofits. They are no longer offering PSLF for them, but that's that. Now, another reminder, when you refinance your student loan, you are refinancing with a private company. That means your student loan is no longer a public loan, which means you do not get the federal protections such as the forbearance. Various private student loan servicers do offer different types of forbearance adjacent things. They're not exactly the same. Technically, federal student loans do give you the most protections. However, that was before this administration. In my opinion, and based on reading, this administration is cutting back everything, unfortunately, with the valves of relief for student loans, which is why I have no qualm refinancing mine. Also, I was going to refinance them anyway. Now, it's important to look into all the various companies. Each various private student loan service provider, they offer different protections, different interest rates, different options. So I would start on NerdWallet. NerdWallet usually shows every month who's giving what interest rate, and they will pull a soft credit pull on your credit line if you want to apply and then see whoever's giving you the best interest rate. Of course, most likely, unless there's a company that you really don't agree with, which I'll get into that in a second, go with the lowest one, because the whole purpose is to save money, unless the lowest one is offered by SoFi. And I've used SoFi. So, a little background information. This series is going to be 6 years old this year. I started this series 2020, July or August. The channel will also be 6 years old this year. Shout out to all of y'all that have been here from way back in the day when the channel used to be called Wine and Chill. And I used to drink wine, I had to cut back a little bit.
For Aunt Sandy, a bottle of white wine.
So we have rebranded. That's why it's allegedly Stephanie. Anyways, my original plan with my student loan payoff journey was to refinance all of my big 6. When I graduated from law school, I had 6 large student loans ranging from $20,000 to $50,000, 53-ish thousand that I had borrowed per loan. That was my original plan. In March of 2020, right before the original onset of the pandemic, I refinanced 1 student loan with SoFi. This was before SoFi decided to become the evil, in my opinion, villain that it became. SoFi, first of all, the UI, awful. They partnered with Mohila when I refinanced my loan. A few years later, if you're looking from 2020, or if you're looking from 2026 today, a few years ago, they were one of the companies that decided to sue to put us all back into student loan repayment. Because, and quote, according to them, they were being harmed. Yeah, I would never refinance with SoFi again. But for that background information, just to know, this will be my 2nd loan that I've ever refinanced. When the pandemic happened, everyone with federal student loans got put on forbearance, and also it was no interest forbearance, the first time that had ever occurred. So there was no need to refinance the rest of my loans because they were not accruing interest. This past August, we are now back in the interest unnecessarily, and that is why I've chosen to refinance my last student loan. Okay, Truthfully, if we're being honest, I should have refinanced this last loan back in September since the interest started in August, but I was busy and I forgot. So now in January, I'm back on it. All right, so I'm choosing to refinance my student loan for 3 specific reasons. The first one, the main one, saving money. The lower your interest rate is, the less money you'll pay. Now, my original interest rate on my last student loan was 7.21%. My new refinance interest rate is 4.8%. So very good. I will be saving a couple $1,000 depending on how fast I pay this off. My goal is to pay this student loan off this year and be done with this. All right. Reiterating again, in my humble opinion, what federal protections are remaining with having that loan under the Department of Education? I don't personally see any. Reminder, while I am a lawyer, I am not your lawyer, and this is not legal advice nor financial advice. I personally don't want to deal with the Department of Education under this administration any longer. So the company I decided to go with is Earnest. I did some research into them. They look like a regular corporation that is not trying to outrightly screw me and will just take my money. And there is no origination fee. There is no fee for processing. There was no fee to refinance a student loan. There don't seem to be any hidden fees. So far, it took about a week to refinance the loan. When you refinance a loan with a private lender, the private lender pays out the Department of Education for your loan, and then they create your new private loan. It's the same exact amounts, no funny business, everything looks correct. So far, so good. And I like their UI. Their user interface, very easy to understand. It reminds me of FedLoan. RIP FedLoan. FedLoan was my original student loan service provider before they sold me off to Advantage. Yeah, that was really trifling of them. If one could miss a student loan service provider, I miss FedLoan because FedLoan had an app. FedLoan customer service was great. Advantage doesn't even have an app. No. What do you mean you don't have a mobile application in the year 2026? I digress. And my third and final reason is this is my last loan. I want this to be as hassle-free as possible, and I want to save as much money as possible. So see point 1 of this is saving me money. All right. So a few things to note, since I did get a very good interest rate, 4.8, my credit score teeters between like 800 and 805 is pretty high. Your girl pays her bills on time. It wasn't always that way. The credit score when I first graduated law school, it was a work in progress. It's come a long way. They assign to you what your interest rate will be based on your credit score, your income, and basically whether or not they think that you are a reliable debtor, to be honest. So interest rates may vary. From beginning to end, I applied. I was approved the same day, and it took them about 1 week to pay out the Department of Education / Advantage the original loan. So far, it's been pretty seamless. Things to know about if you are considering refinancing your loans. If you already have a private loan, you can, of course, refinance that private loan again with any refinancing company. If you have any loan, you don't have to refinance the entirety of the loan. So, for example, this loan is about $70,000. I could have refinanced $25,000 if I wanted to. Then you'll save less money, but you don't have to refinance the whole loan. You don't have to refinance all your loans. As we've seen in 2020, I refinanced one and then still had a bunch left. You can refinance a portion, you can refinance some, you can try it out with a smaller one, paid off, see if you like it. So it's a lot of mix and match, which I think is really great. And then last but not least, I do have an affiliate link. If you refinance with Earnest, you will get $200. I will get $200. That's more money for you and more money for me. And I will link the affiliate link here. So I, again, recommend if you're interested in refinancing your student loans, look up on NerdWallet who is offering what rates. And then, again, it will soft credit pull on your credit. See who's giving you the lowest rate. Hopefully it's Earnest, but if it's not Earnest, refinance with whoever's giving the lowest rate. Sans SoFi. I wouldn't really personally recommend those people over there. Up to you. So I will link that for you. And yeah, we have kept to the honesty of keeping this video short. Good. Always at the end, I always like to congratulate those of you who have paid off your student loans or have gotten your student loans forgiven via PSLF. I'm very excited for y'all. I hope to be joining y'all this year, I am keeping on the good old corporate track and doing my labor. We will have a separate conversation probably on Instagram about AI in corporate now. I have a good video on AI and machine learning as somebody who's been a black girl in tech, OG black girl in tech for many years. It is really interesting to watch these corporations push AI down their employees' throats when it's harming the environment, doing all these things, doesn't have a good ROI, return on investment. So I'm gonna try to keep my corporate job, but it seems AI is also coming for the transactional lawyers. Yeah, more on that probably on Instagram. We'll discuss in depth. But yes, how are y'all feeling? How's your student loan payoff going? How is your January going? I will be getting, because people have been asking, are we only doing student loan videos or are we going to talk about politics, pop culture, etc.? We are going to get into the other videos. Particularly, I would like to do another video. I've done a video, I think last year, maybe a couple times, about ICE and how ICE is the slave patrol reimagined. The slave patrol meets Gestapo. There's a few ICE directors dressed as full-on Gestapo fake wool uniforms. Yeah. The slave patrol uniform wasn't doing it for them, I guess. We will also be talking about all of that. You know, trying to balance doing labor, not panicking, paying off this loan, and getting back to our schedule. But I'm doing it. We're also at 18 minutes, so I'm gonna leave y'all here. I hope you'll have a calm, not too crazy rest of the month. All right. Catch you later.